All right, so again, the idea is by the end of the period, really hopefully well before that, we'll get to here. All right. Now, there's a lot of different ways. I think I've said this to you before. We could go down and do all these first, then these first, then these. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go here to here to here to here to here to here, etc. It doesn't really matter which order you do it in. It really doesn't. But exit will be right near the end then. That's the only reason. All right, maybe that's a dumb reason, but it's the one I chose. All right, so I'm going to go over to the code, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a constant. Very similar to the constant that we added before. So I'm going to say const int, I'll just call it len, L-E-N, equal 25. And that is going to be my array length. So again, remember, we are going to have, all right, we are going to have one size, okay? Now, just so you see this, I want to make sure everybody gets this. It may sound a little weird, but I'm going to have two copies of this array. I'm going to have the one that's going to have the array in its original order in case I want to do something with it, and one of them that I can manipulate. I can put it in ascending, descending, do whatever I want to do with it. It's not so much that it had to be done this way. This is the way I chose to do it. All right, so so far all we've done is we added the one constant. All right, an integer called len is going to hold the array length. Now I'm going to put in some variables. So declare and initialize program variables. And there are 4 of them. Oops. Okay. And like I said, maybe that's not that great of a comment, but it's going to be the original array. Okay. Then I'm going to create another one that I just called modified. All right. I've got this variable here I'm just calling the sum. Again, maybe kind of a weird name, but it is the sum of all array elements. Okay, and one more double the average, and that's going to be equal to 0.0. And that's the average array element size. Okay? Again, you may not like my choice of names, but if you're going to follow along with what I'm doing, you probably want to use those. All right? So, first thing I want to do is I want to be able to fill the array and display the array. Okay, so where did I put fill array? There it is. All right. So when you look here, this is new numbers. The idea is when this gets clicked, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, it's going to create a new array or an array of 25 new numbers, and then number 2, it's going to display that. Okay, and I wrote that as 2 different routines: one to fill the array and one to display the array. Okay, so that's the first one. I'm going to double click on it and start putting this in. And I'm going to call this fill array. Again, I get an error because we haven't written it yet. And display array. All right. Now, when I display the array, I have to let the system know which array I'm displaying. The original one or the modified one. Did you hear me? Okay. So since I have to let it know that, I'm going to put in here int, bracket, bracket, and I can call it whatever I want. I'm just going to call it A for array. Okay. So we have added, I double-clicked on the new numbers button, and we added these two things. We're going to write these right now. All right. So the first one we're going to write, I'm going to put a few comments in here. I do want you to hopefully at least be able to understand what's going on. All right. So this method generates 25 new random numbers each between 1 and 100, and puts them into the original array. Okay. As it fills up the original array, it copies the value of each array element into the modified array. And if that doesn't make sense, give me a second. All right, because we're gonna write it and then run it so you can see what's gonna go on. Okay. All right. So this one I'm gonna make private void, and we're calling it again fill array. Okay. It does not need anything. Whoops. It does not need anything special. Notice now, boom, our fill array error went away. Everybody see that? Yours should have also. We still have the display array because we haven't written that one yet. All right, but as soon as you put in private void, fill array, and put in your curly braces, that error should go away. All right. Now, first thing we want to do basically is set this up so we're able to work with random numbers. I showed you this yesterday. It'll make more sense when we get up to about chapter 11. But we're going to say here random RND equals new random. And that's going to give me an error because it's got to be paren. There we go. What that is doing again is that is going to set up for us. All right, the ability to create random numbers. That's all that we care about right now. Okay. And I'm going to tell you something. Sorry about this. See this line here? Get rid of it. This line, the display array, we're going to call it from this method. So just get rid of it. Just call fill array from here. All right. We'll put it back in just a minute. Okay, so simple for loop. As long as you have your hands on the right keys. I'll let you put that in. Literally, we have only one more line in here. So let me put that in, and then we'll go over the entire thing. Okay. Like I said, you get that error. We're going to write that display routine in just a minute, and literally it's about 4 or 5 lines. That's it. Okay? We got kind of off to a weird start in here with you guys having to leave for a couple minutes, but I will go right till 9 o'clock, and we'll take a 15-minute break. All right, start up again at 9:15. We can get it done by 10. Great. If it takes till 10:30, that's fine too. All right. Now, I'm not moving it, but I want to make this a little smaller so I can bring up the comment too. All right. This method generates 25 new random numbers. That's what that's doing. Does that make sense? All right. That is saying call the next method, give me a number between 1 and 100, and stick it into my current original array slot, so to speak. This says take everything that I've just created and copy it into its buddy that's the other array. I'm not putting more comments there because that's what this says. Okay? I don't know there if it made more sense to put a comment here or to put individual comments here. All right? I think where it is, hopefully that suffices. Do people understand what's going on here? So imagine, let's just pretend for a second our array has only got 5 numbers in it. All right, so I changed that 25 to a 5. So it gives us 5 numbers between 1 and 100. 8, 31, 73, 19, and 100. All right, then what this is doing here is that's saying that is LCV when it's equal to 0. That will be LCV when it's equal to 1. LCV when it's equal to 2, LCV when it's equal to 3, and LCV when it's equal to 4. Does that make sense? This right here says copy that number to the other array. Then that number, then that number, then that number, then that number. So when we get done, the idea is both of those arrays hold those 5 values. Does that make sense? And you might say, well, yeah, but why'd you do that? Because again, I want to be able to hold the original value of my array in case I need it, but I want to be able to manipulate and change the order in which those elements are. That'll be my modified. All right. Then I'm telling the system I want it, and again, you're going to get an error here because we haven't written display array yet. We're going to write that literally in a minute. All right. But we're telling it to display an array, and we have to tell it which array we want it to display. And really, right here, it wouldn't matter, okay, because they're the same. But I just picked the original one, okay? So, right underneath where you are, we're going to write this display array routine, all right? So, let's put a little, probably won't need much comment here, but this method displays the contents of the array which has been passed in. So again, either original or modified. Why? Because those are the only 2 we have. All right. It displays the contents in the list box. Okay? And you may or may not remember, but if you look up on the screen here, that list box is this thing. All right? That I think I told you to call list box array. All right. So we still have the error. Why? Because we haven't written this yet. So again, this will be another one where we will put in private void display array int bracket a. As soon as we put in the curlies, boom, that error is gone and that error is gone. You should now not see any errors. You should now not see any errors. all right, on your screen. Now, we're going to call display array from more than one place in this program. Did you hear me? Sometimes we'll call it like this, where we're passing it original. Sometimes we'll call it where it's passing modify. So we don't want to come down and call this original or modify. We could, but it would be confusing to the user. It's an array, so I just called it A. We could call it anything in the world. If it makes more sense to you, you literally don't, unless you want to do that, you could call it array like that. You could do that if that makes more sense to you. I just decided to keep it small. So all this is going to do, as it says, is it's going to put the values in the list box. Now, there's a problem with that. Just so you know, look on the screen. This is going to result in us getting another error. We'll fix it in a minute, but look on the screen. If I don't clear the list box every time, it just keeps adding it. So if I ran this 5 or 6 times, let's say I ran it 6 times, there would now be 150 numbers in here. It would automatically provide a scroll bar, but it would just keep pushing them down and down and down and down. We don't want that. So we're going to tell it before it prints those 25 numbers to always clear the list box first. Does that make sense? All right. So that's the first thing we're going to do here, is we're going to call a routine that's called, here's a surprise, clear list box. Now, you should know by now why we're getting that error, because we have yet to write clear list box. We're going to write clear list box in just a moment. All right? I mean, we can put a comment there that says clear the list box. That makes you feel better. Clear the list box. That's fine. All right. Now, literally, I'm just going to write a for loop. I'm going to steal the one from up on top and then make some changes. All right. For int, less than length, plus plus. Now, this is where it's a little bit different. Look on the screen, please. It's the name of the list box array. Then you have to say dot items dot add. So I'll let you put that in. I don't want async there. Why are you giving me an error here? No, somehow I put a Y there. There we go. Okay. Now that literally is the entire routine. I want everybody to hear that. That literally is the entire routine. All right. Now, we're almost ready to run it, believe it or not, but we first got to write this, otherwise we're going to get an error. So let's put that right underneath here. Private void I don't like that name, button clear list box. That's confusing. Let's just call it clear list box. Is that okay? All right. So we'll call clear list box. And it's a whopping 1 line long. The name of the list box, dot items dot clear. That's the whole routine. And again, probably we should have again, this method calls the list box clear routine to clear the list box. To clear or empty out the list box. Again, maybe not the best name in the world, okay? So I'm going to save this. I'll come right back to it, but let's run it. Now you should be able to, if you put all that in, this is the only button that's working. But look. See that? And I can keep clicking it. It keeps clearing the list box and putting in 25 new numbers. Now, if you don't, notice here, my whole thing is, if you made yours a lot bigger, okay, you might have some white space. If you made it too small, you're going to have a scroll bar. But you can adjust that at any time. That's no big thing. All right, just so you know that. All right, I'm going to stop the run and come right back to here. So far, what have we done? We added a constant that had our length of 25. Notice now original and modified no longer have the green squigglies because they're already being used. The sum and the average do have the squigglies because they're not being used. All right? So far, oh, that was neat. So far, that's what we've done. Okay? Then we went over and we said that when you click the new numbers, so when that right there is when you click that button. All right? So when you click that button, again, I can put a message up here. This is the code that runs when the new numbers button is clicked. And we're trying to be modular here, and we're not putting the code in there. See what I'm saying? We could have put the code right in there, but we're calling another routine. And I'm just literally going down as we're doing this. All right? So we call fill array from there, and there was our fill array. There was our comment. This is going to set it up so we can have random numbers. Then we say 25 times, create a random number between 1 and 100, stick it into the original array, and then copy that value you just made into the modified array. Then when you're done, display it. All display does is it first clears the list box, and then it just literally adds it to the list box. And clear the list box, that's it. I'm not trying to go through this too fast. Does it make sense so far, what we're doing? Does it make sense? I'm being purposely in here. I'm being very deliberate. Okay? Now, some of you might have seen this, but this afternoon in the other class, we're going to build this. It's actually very simplistic. This is an Android app. All right, there's a reason I'm showing it to you. Now, I can come in here and, for instance, I can type in $200, okay, and this is called a slider. And notice once I let go, it tells you what my tip would be. So this would be like 34%, and I can get it all the way up to just about 100%. Get the idea? But the reason I'm showing you this is when you build this in Android, there's two ways you can build it. You can build it all in code, basically, where you never even have to look at your picture, or you can build it all using the picture and just change stuff around. Everything we've been doing thus far, I mean, I don't know what you think when you hear that, but so far everything we've been doing, we've been using the picture. Today we're going to build it totally just from code so they can see the difference. All right? And we're doing something almost very similar to what you're doing, but we're doing it, and I'm going to do it unbelievably deliberately. All right? And there's a rhyme and reason to everything I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do with you in here. All right? So when we come in here, we now have one button done. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, probably doesn't sound like much, but it's good. All right. So the next thing, like I said, I'm going to keep going like this. So I'm going to go from here to here. All right. So I'm going to do sum next. Again, it doesn't matter which one you do next. It really doesn't. I just happen to choose this particular one. Okay? All right. Lowest. Play lowest. There we go. All right. Okay. So this is the code that runs when the sum button is clicked. Okay? I mean, probably, you might even say, well, that's pretty obvious. Do you really need that? No, that's up to you. Okay? Like I said, we're putting a lot of documentation in here because I want you to be able to go back and look at it, so if there is something you're having a problem with, you can go back and look at it later, and probably next week when you have your test, all right, you've got something to look at. Oh, that's similar to what we did there. All right, so you can hopefully that'll help. All right. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna call two routines. All right, first we're gonna call, and we're gonna get errors because they haven't been written yet. But first I'm gonna call initialize variables. Okay, and there's my error because we haven't written a routine yet called initialize variables. And then we're gonna call calculate the sum of array elements. And we're actually going to pass in there the number 1. Don't worry right now what that is. All right? I want to see where I put this. So, bear with me for just a second here. So this is going to initialize variables. Which variables? Remember these two up here that we haven't used yet? The sum and the average? Okay. You may or may not remember this from yesterday. But what we did with this example with the console, we called sum, then we called average. Okay? And all average was the sum divided by the number, right? Well, the problem here is, what if you call average before you call sum? You don't have a sum. So we're going to have to account for that. That's what we're going to do in this thing. That's why we're passing the number 1 in. All right, so we're going to write the first routine here, and I'm going to say this routine initializes the sum and the average variables to 0.0. That's its job. Okay, I think we made them both doubles. I want to check. Nope, one is an int. I mean, that's fine. Let's just say to 0. That's not a problem. To 0. All right. So we want this first error to go away. So we're going to say private void initialize variables, and you see the magic happen. As soon as I put in the curlies, boom, all those two errors are gone. And this is real simple. The sum equals 0. The average equals 0.0. You could have made them both 0. It would have been totally fine to do that. Did you all hear me? It would have been totally fine. All right. So why did I put 0.0 instead of, just because it's a double, I know it has a decimal place. This one, I mean, I'd get an error if I tried this, because that's an int variable. So there's my error. The other one, it doesn't matter. But if I just do put them both to just 0, that's fine. The system doesn't care. I don't get an error. I don't get a warning. All right. But like I said, it's just me. So I'm putting in here 0.0. All right. We'll start writing the routine. I told you I was going to give you a break at 9, and I will. So we're going to make this other routine right here, this calculate, that one. We're going to make that, but we're not going to have time to finish it by 9. So this routine will calculate the sum of all array elements and, if necessary, will also calculate the average of all array elements. Okay? and that is going to be another void. So it's going to be another private void, and that's its name, and it's going to hold an int value that I just called f. Doesn't really, there's no significance with the letter f. But now notice these two errors are gone. Everybody see that? They should be gone on yours. We've already written this one, and now we're up to here. All right? I got 3 minutes, so I'm going to start writing. Somebody stop me, please, when you see the alarm go, or the clock rather, go till 9 on over here. All right? So, okay, that's, of course, we're not done yet. Let me see if it works. Make sure I didn't put in anything incorrect. So, now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click, there's my new numbers, click sum. Sum of all these is 1278. If I put in different numbers, I should get a different sum. See that? All right, so it does appear as though that works. This is not the end of this routine, but it's the end of this routine before we take a break. So I'll expect when you come back at 9:15, I'm going to pick it up from here, and it's going to say, else if f equal 2. And that's going to handle the average. All right? So, get sum of all array elements. In fact, that actually shouldn't be there. That should be here. Get sum of all array elements. Display sum of all array elements. Okay? Move that up. So that's where you should be. All right, it is 9. Let's take a break. Again, 9:15, please.